Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing a Blackwing deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is my favorite deck of all time to play because you can summon out all sorts of amazing boss monsters like Blackwing Assault Dragon, which this build can actually summon out 3 of them in the very first turn, or even turn your opponent's turn completely off, which is absolutely amazing. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Simoon. Simoon is the most important card in the entire deck to see in your opening hand because this card gets you to your copy of Black Whirlwind. This card has the ability, if you control no monsters and this card is in your hand, you can banish any other Blackwing monster from your hand to place a Black Whirlwind from your deck face up on your side of the field, which is an awesome effect to instantly get Black Whirlwind on the field. You can then normal summon this card out to your side of the field without tributing, which actually doesn't even cost you your normal summon for the turn because you're normal summoning Simoon by its own effect, which is really good because it's also going to get you to the search off the Black Whirlwind that you just placed on the field with your copy of Simoon's effect. The only downside of this card is it does lock you into darks for the rest of the turn, which that's all we're playing in this deck anyways, and it makes you send the copy of Black Whirlwind to the graveyard during the end phase and you take 1,000 points of damage, which is totally fine because we have ways to bounce our Black Whirlwind back to our hand with cards like Zapdos the Elite. We then play 3 copies of Sudri. Sudri is the best normal summon in the entire deck now. And as the ability, when this card is normal summon, you get to add 1 card that mentions Blackwing Dragon from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, which is an awesome effect to be able to search out all sorts of amazing cards like your copies of Shamal and Vada. But this card also generates tokens, which is really good because they're actually tuner tokens. By tributing 1 monster on your side of the field, you get to special summon out a Phantom Glimmer token that's a Wing Beast tuner, dark, level 2, 700 attack and 700 defense, and then takes 700 points of damage. And you cannot special summon monsters from the extract the turn you activate this effect except synchro monsters, which is not that big of a deal because that's pretty much all we're playing in the extract anyways. We then play 3 copies of Shamal the Sandstorm. This card is an awesome 3 of the deck that has the ability you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard to place a Black Feather Whirlwind from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone, which is an awesome effect to just instantly get your copy of Black Feather Whirlwind on your side of the field. It also has the ability, if a Blackwing Synchro monster or a Blackwing Dragon is special summoned to your field while this card's in the graveyard except during the damage step, you can banish this card and then target 1 Blackwing monster in your graveyard and add it back to your hand and then take 700 points of damage, which is not that big of a deal in the deck to take 700 points of damage because your copies of your Blackwing Dragon is usually going to eat the damage that you're going to take off your monsters. We then play 3 copies of Vada. Vada is one of the best cards in the entire deck to search because it's going to instantly get you to your copy of Blackwinged Dragon. Because if you control a Blackwing monster other than a Blackwing Vada, you can special summon this card from your hand. And you can only special summon this card once per turn this way. And during your main phase, you can send this card from your field to the graveyard along with monsters from your deck that are non-tuner monsters that total level equal 8 to be able to summon out a copy of Blackwing Dragon, which is really cool to send from your deck to the graveyard a copy of Chinook and Zapdos along with this card on your side of the field to summon out your copy of Blackwing Dragon directly from the extract, which is an awesome effect just to instantly get that card out on your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Blackwing Zapdos the Elite. I still like playing 2 copies of Zapdos in my build because it helps out to be able to bounce your cards off your side of the field, and I really like to send this card from my deck to the graveyard off my copy of Vada, which is why I really like playing 2 copies of this card. So even if I draw into one, I still have 1 in the deck. But it is a once per duel effect that if this card's in the graveyard, you can return 1 other face-up card that you control back to the hand, special summon this card from the graveyard, and then take 400 points of damage, which is an awesome effect to be able to bounce cards like your copy of Black Feather Whirlwind that is a soft once per turn while it's on your side of the field, back to the hand, and then reactivate it to be able to use its effect all over again. We then play 2 copies of Chinook. Chinook is really good and basically a hand trap for the deck. This card is absolutely amazing as a 2-of in the build, and I really love this card, how well it flows with the rest of the deck. This card has the ability that you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard and then target one face-up monster that your opponent controls, send a Blackwing Synchro monster or a Blackwing Dragon from your X deck to the graveyard, and then if you do, until the end phase of the turn, the targeted monster loses 700 attack and also negate its effects. And it's a quick effect if you control a Dark Synchro monster, which is a super good effect to be able to combo with the rest of your cards in this deck. We then play a single copy of Auster. Auster is a great 1-of in the deck as a normal summon because your copies of Simoon are going to banish your Blackwings, and when you normal summon this card out to your side of the field, you can target one of your level 4 lower banished Blackwings and special summon it back to your side of the field in defense position. This card also has a great effect that if this card's in the graveyard, you can banish it to activate one of the following effects to either place black feather counters on a Blackwing Dragon that you control equal to the number of cards that your opponent controls, or place one wedge counter on each face-up monster that your opponent controls so it does not have one, which works extremely well with your copies of Blackwing Full Armor Master. We then play a single copy of Gale the Whirlwind. Gale the Whirlwind is one of the classic Blackwings and has a super simple effect that if you control another Blackwing monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. And it also has the ability that once per turn, you can half the attack and defense of one face-up monster that your opponent controls, which can help you get over some really big boss monsters that your opponent might be playing. We then play a single copy of Steam the Cloak. This card is an awesome combo piece that's really good because if this card leaves the field, you get to special summon a Steam token to your side of the field that's an Aqua type Wind, level 1, 100 attack and 100 defense, and if this card's in the graveyard, you can tribute a monster special summon this card from the graveyard, and you can only use that effect of this card once per turn, which is an awesome, or once per duel, excuse me, which is an awesome effect just to get your copy of your Steam back from the graveyard once per duel. It's an awesome card for a combo piece in this deck and a really good 1-of. We then play a single copy of Hamaten. Hamaten is really good in the deck as a 1-of as well, because if you control a Blackwing monster other than a copy of this card, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is a great effect to instantly get another Blackwing on your side of the field. But this card is a super unique effect that if this card is on your side of the field, you can target one other Blackwing monster that you control and increase this card's level by that monster's level, which is really good to level modulate this card to get you a high level Blackwing on the field for your synchro plays. We then play a single copy of Orochi. Orochi is a really good 1-of that you can special summon to your side of the field if you control another Blackwing monster, which is just really good to have a level 1 tuner in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Dimensional Shifter. Shifter is just one of the best hand traps in the entire game right now, and it's pretty easy with this particular deck to play around your copies of Shifter, and it's just a high impact hand trap to be able to use against the opponent, especially if we get pushed to go second. But this card is a great 3-of in this particular deck, because if you have no cards in your graveyard, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, and until the end phase of the next turn, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. This card is really good as a 3-of in the deck, and you can change it out for Skullmeister if you want to play something that's not going to banish everything from our graveyard, but I still really like the copies of Shifter in this particular build. I'm then playing 2 copies of the Multi-Dimensional Kaiju. This card is really good to break the opponent's board and get rid of an extremely powerful boss monster they have, and it also helps us search out our copy of Simoon through our copy of Small World, which is really good to be able to search out our copy of Simoon by revealing this card in the deck and then search out our copy of Simoon. This card is a great 2-of in the deck to be able to use and just a great card overall in this deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're just going to be playing a few spells. We're going to be playing 2 copies of Black Feather Whirlwind. This card is awesome in the deck and easily searchable off your copies with Shamal. It has the ability once per turn, if you can special summon a Dark Synchro monster from the X deck, except during the damage step, then you can target one of your Blackwing monsters or a Blackwing Dragon that's banished or in the graveyard with less attack than the special summon monster and special summon it. And once per turn, if a dark monster you control would be destroyed by battle by card effect, you can remove a black feather counter from your field instead, which is a super awesome effect. This card is a definite 2-of in this particular build and super easy to get to with your copy of Shamal, which is why we're just playing 2 copies of this card. We then play 3 copies of Black Whirlwind. Black Whirlwind is one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck because it's not even a once per turn. That when a Blackwing monster is normal summoned to your side of the field, you can add a Blackwing monster from your deck to your hand with less attack than that monster, which is a a super good effect to be able to search your deck for basically any Blackwing that you need at any time, which is really cool, especially with multiple cards in this deck giving us additional normal summons, like your copies of Simoon normal summoning itself off its own effects, and Nathang giving you an additional normal summon. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. This card just helps us dig into the deck because we don't need every single synchro monster that we have in the extra deck, and this card just helps us by banishing certain cards out of our extra deck that we might not need in that particular situation, and then letting us dig into the deck for the exact card that we need. We then play 3 copies of Small World. Small World is extremely powerful at helping us search out our copy of Simoon in this particular deck, which is why we're playing 3 copies of this card. This card is extremely powerful by revealing any Blackwing that you want from your hand and then revealing your multi-dimensional kaiju in the deck to let you search out your copy of your Simoon directly from the deck. This card is extremely powerful in the deck and a definite 3 of in this particular build because you need to get to Simoon as quickly as possible so you can go in for full combo. We then play 3 copies of Dimensional Fissure. This card can be activated at the end of your combo, which is really nice to be able to just make sure that any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead, which is an extremely powerful effect. You can go through your entire combo against your opponent on the very first turn, with this card being the last card that you activate, which is extremely powerful because you can basically turn your opponent's entire turn off depending on what you're playing against, which is really powerful with this deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing a single trap in this particular deck, and it's going to be a single copy of Blackwing Twin Shadow. Twin Shadow is a definite 1-of in this particular deck, but you only need a single copy of this card. It lets you shuffle 2 of your Blackwing monsters, a tuner and a non-tuner, that are banished or in your graveyard back into the deck or the extra deck to special summon a Blackwing synchro monster or a Blackwing dragon from your extra deck whose level equals the total levels of those 2 monsters, and it is treated as a synchro summon. And if you control 2 or more Blackwing monsters, you can activate this card from your hand, which is an extremely powerful effect to be able to use with this card. This card is a definite 1-of and easily searchable off your copies of Sudri, which is why I play this card just as a 1-of in the deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Blackwing Assault Dragon. This card is a definite 3-of in the deck, and it's a super powerful boss monster that we can actually summon out 3 of them in a single turn with this build. This card has the ability that it must either be synchro summoned or special summoned from your extra deck by banishing a tuner synchro monster and a Blackwing dragon from face up from your field or graveyard. And each time your opponent activates a monster effect, you get to place a black feather counter on this card, and when an effect is resolved. And if you do, inflict 700 points of damage to your opponent, which is super powerful because it actually stacks, which is really cool between all 3 of them. And during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can tribute this card with 4 or more black feather counters on it to destroy all cards on the field, which is an extremely powerful effect to use in this deck. We then play a single copy of Blackwinged Dragon. Blackwinged Dragon is a really powerful combo piece in the deck that we're going to be using to go into our copy of Blackwinged Assault Dragon all the time in this deck, and the card that we're always summoning off our copy of Vada. I feel like 1 copy is totally fine in this particular build. You could play 2, but I really like just 1 copy of this card. We then play a single copy of Blackwing Full Armor Master. This card is insanely powerful. It's unaffected by every card effect, which is extremely powerful. And each time a monster that your opponent controls activates its effect, you get to place 1 wedge counter on that opponent's monster, and after that effect resolves. And once per turn, you can target 1 monster that your opponent controls with a wedge counter and take control of it, and once per turn during your end phase, you can destroy all monsters on the field that have wedge counters, which is extremely powerful. We then play a single copy of Silverwind the Ascendant. This card is super powerful because when it touches the field, it does pop 2 cards on the field. You usually are going to summon this card off your copy of Twin Shadow, but it's an extremely powerful card to summon on the field, especially during the opponent's turn to interrupt them. We then play a single copy of Blackwing Armor Master. This is just my favorite Blackwing, which is why I play this card as a 1-of in this particular build. It can't be destroyed by battle, and anytime it's involved in a battle, you get to place a wedge counter on the monster that battles. You can also pull the wedge counter out of the monster that it has a wedge counter and reduce that opponent's monster down to 0 attack and defense points, which is really a powerful effect. And then play a single copy of Chidori. Chidori gets absolutely massive in this particular deck, which is why I play this card as a one-of. Play a single copy of Raikiri, because it can pop multiple cards on the field, which is really nice. Play a single copy of Obsidian Hawk Joe. Obsidian Hawk Joe is basically a monster reborn. It's let you target one level 5 or higher winged beast monster in your graveyard and special summon it once per turn, which is a really awesome effect. We then play a single copy of Nothing. Nothing is extremely powerful because if this card is special summon, you can inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent. Then you can target a face-up monster they control, and it loses 800 attack and defense. And you can only use this effect of this card once per turn. And during your main phase, you can normal summon one Blackwing monster in addition to your normal summoner set, which is a really good effect to be able to use on Nothing. And then play a single copy of Borea Storm. The reason we play this card in the deck is because it can level modulate itself, and it's also basically a walking Foolish Burial. If this card is synchro summoned, you can send a Blackwing monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's level becomes the same as that monster sent to the graveyard, which can help us level modulate to go into a bunch of different synchro plays, which is super helpful in this deck. It's also a tuner synchro monster, which helps us go into our copy of Assault Dragon, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. This card is a walking negate, which is why I play this card as a one-of. We then play a single copy of Sorrow Cat. Sorrow Cat is really good to let us synchro summon during our opponent's turn into our final card, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, which essentially turns our opponent's turn completely off, which is really cool because when this card is synchro summoned, you can activate this effect for the rest of the turn. Your opponent cannot activate cards. Also, cards that your opponent controls cannot activate their effects, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation, which is an extremely powerful effect, especially if you can put this card on your side of the field and then synchro summon during your opponent's turn into your copy of King Calamity, which is super easy to do in this deck. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Blackwings before, you definitely should give the deck a try. It's one of my favorite decks to play of all time, probably my favorite deck of all time to play, and just a really fun deck to play, especially this build. You can change out the copies of Dimensional Shifter and the copies of Fisher out for other hand traps like Infinite Impermanence and Ash Blossom, but that's it for the deck. So anyways, guys, this is it for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.